and welcome back to Raven's Nexus. Here we are continuing with Wistoria, Wand and Sword. We are up to Chapter 2, and from the hype I've seen from last chapter, and with everything, even the anime, I had to go back and watch the anime episode to go bar to bar with the chapter, and man, this is going up some, high strings right now. So, without further ado, let's just jump right in. And we jump back into class with Professor Worknear. When we talk about climbing the tower, we generally mean advancing to the Upper Institute, to become one of the Magica Vendor who reign from the topmost floor of Mercedes Cutlass, the Wizard's Tower. You must first be accepted into the highest seat of learning, the Upper Institute. Sitting here going over the different levels of academy students. There are two main methods of advancing to the Upper Institute. The first is to invent a new type of magic. The second is to earn a certain amount of credits at this academy. Only a very limited number of students manage to accomplish the former. Ergo, the majority of students must generally focus on the latter. And yet, with an angry stare, you nitwits are hardly on track to graduate, far from advancing to the Upper Institute. Today, we are going to review until you're blue in the face. And it cuts over to a panel of Will crying, and then we have the chapter name drop, Chapter 2, Undaunted. And a full page of Will with his book learner side and his dungeon crawler side holding his sword. We cut over to Will and Chloette talking. I heard Professor Worknear's remedial. We cut over to Chloette and Will speaking as they're walking through the hall. I heard Professor Worknear's remedial class was pretty intense again. Yeah, it was one practice test after another, not to mention all the brutal drills. But you've earned every writing credit there is. I guess Professor Worknear's pretty strict too, huh? Well, I am hopeless at spell work, but just because I no talent doesn't mean I should give up. It's actually pretty nice of him to offer remedial classes at all. Most professors wouldn't bother to help that much. True, especially Professor Edward. I can't see him ever giving extra lessons. And they cut the corner, and all of a sudden you hear them yelling. The two goons that follow They cut the corner and you see the two goons that follow Sion. I'm telling you, it's true! Sion beat an evil sentinel! A 10 credit monster on his own! Are you serious? Yeah, it took us out right away, but when I came to, Sion had already killed it. You're wrong. We cut over to Sion. Angrily, that was actually... This is going on in his head, not yelling at people. And then he all of a sudden glares through past everyone, as if his ego was completely broken. He gets up, stomps towards him, grabs Will by the collar. Who do you think you are? You worthless no talent! And he throws him backwards and storms off. And Will just looks back like, We cut over to the principal's office. We cut over to the principal's office, and we see Professor Edward yelling Will Surfer deserves to be expelled. Headmistress Cauldron. Now, Edward, why all the fuss? Will is in his 6th and final year. Expelling him after he's already come this far would be, well, he's no mage. He's a swordsman. He has no place here. We're talking about a boy with no magic outclassing mages. The very idea is... She flips her wand over and it spins pages on the book, and we see Will in a circle in front. He consistently earns top marks in writing. He offers fascinating insights in his papers. Leaving aside the minor detail of his not being able to use magic, he's almost too good to be true. He may never become a Magicavander, but he could be an artificer or a healer, or the possibilities are endless. You know, you have a point right there. I have to step in for a moment and be like, man, you are not always limited to one path. You can go down multiple ledges and explore the different branches. Sometimes you might not be able to pull back on one of those ropes to get you back to that previous branch, and you might have grown past that. But still, yeah. He may want to be a Magicavander, but if he doesn't hit that magic mark, there are different jobs. That's crazy. It's not crazy, but yeah. One of the Academy's responsibilities is to produce people of learning for the fated day. That boy isn't after learning. He wants to become a Magicavander. That's precisely the problem. Yes, that is an issue, isn't it? In that case, Edward, test him. Do it yourself. Now that you've learned the truth about him, if he cannot pass your test, then you may decide whether to expel him. Are you sure about this? I'm not nearly forgiving as Worknear. No matter. As for the content of the test, I leave it to you. As he turns around, walking off with a glare, you hear the principal saying, "You know more about the Magicavander than anyone else. Test him all you wish, and then judge him for yourself, O Dark Viper." So he must have history. He must have history with the Magicavander. No wonder he's so, angry about it. And then we cut over to the study hall with Will and Cloette again. Year 344 of the magical era, the Battle of Garzanzo breaks out. Trouble starts when the dwarves who came here from another world grow increasingly dissatisfied with the constant overwork and exploitation, as well as humans' peripheral treatment towards elves, other races of off-worlders. The dwarves raise an army of 10,000 in response. The tower? What are you studying today? History. Learning about historical events from other races' perspectives. You're already doing so much better than me in writing. I'm sure you don't need to push yourself that hard. Well, if he can't do spell work, he's kind of got to... Yeah, it makes sense. If I fall short, just as much as 1 credit, I won't make it to the upper institute. That is why Well, besides, dwarves can't use magic either, so I can relate. They marched on against a vast magical host. Never say die. That is more powerful than even magic. Did Professor Worknear teach you that? Yep, it's one of my favorite phrases. That's why I have to keep on working hard. She gives a small glance. Will? I think your hair is going gray. What? And he freaks out. I knew it. You are working too hard. what's all this ruckus? And Professor Edward walks up menacingly, staring him down. Professor Edward? Sorry, sir, we were just studying. Surfer, Spell Hall, come alone. And this is the start of the remedial test. And we cut back to the Spell Hall. I can't bear to see any more of your blundering spell work, so I am offering you a remedial class. So, you should thank me. What? Huh? A remedial class? With you, Professor Edward? And just for me? With a, evil smile. Indeed, as he lifts his wand, starting to cast the spell, I have taken it upon myself to see what you are really made of. And he blasts right at the side of Will. And Will dashes to the side. What? And he says, your task is to land a single attack on me. Refusal is not an option. If you succeed, I will award you 5 spell work credits. But if you fail, you will leave the academy. A no talent like you has no right to even look upon the Magic Evander. Now I've given you a reason to fight. Let's begin. And a magical circle spawns around his feet. And he has to dash to the side. Dax Barbriticus. And we see it cut over to Professor Worknear. You called for me, Headmistress? Yes, sorry to trouble you, Worknear. I thought you should know. What? And we see on a projector behind her, Will and Ed? As you see Professor Edward casting multi-layered spell circles towards Will. Now, what? Wait, just a minute. What's going on here? Worknear, Edward is in the middle of administering a test, and I forbid you to stop it. This is madness. Why would you let Professor Edward? That's just cruel. I mean, yeah, so far this dude looks like some Professor Snape doing some crooked stuff. No, Mr. Potter, you're not allowed here. So, and why is that? Why? Because he's come closer than anyone else to becoming a Magic Evander. He may have fallen short, but still made it to the top of the tower. He's an ascendant. And there it is. And there it is. He made it all the way up to the top. Just to barely reach the echelon. That's crazy. And then we see a huge circle form right in front of him and blast. Boom. And it blasts Will straight back onto his back. And then he gets up. Dark Barbriticus. It's just a low-level black magic. But his spells are so strong, and he dashes straight at him. Even worse. He turns, jumps in, and does a high kick. Charge! His defense is solid rock. You think you can kick a magical shield? How utterly hopeless. And we see more blasts directly at Will. He's not even using an incantation. His spell casting is way too fast. I can't find a single hole in his offense or defense. I'll never even scratch him. He's too strong. Two, Sir Fort. I will use exactly 2 spells. A fire spell to burn you, and a shield spell to deflect your crude attacks. Magical Doctrine number 27. If you cannot learn 1,000 spells, then master 1 instead. That 1 spell will become 1,000 arrows in your quiver. I love that quote. I need to write that down somewhere after the video. That's amazing. And we see, with the dark shadow casting over his eyes, he starts casting a multi-layer, spells upon other spells. And now blasting him with a barrage of separate attacks. He's talking about multicasting a single spell. He's using an overlapping series. It's a Dex Barbaticus Barrage. Farewell, no talent. And Will gets hit directly. Blast backward onto his back. He flips over to his stomach. I can't beat him. Hits the ground, wham! This is what it means to be a first-class mage. If only I had my sword. And we see his pet cat, run backwards, injured, all the way to Chloette. I hope Will is okay. A remedial class alone with Professor Edward. What if he's getting whipped or tortured? And it finally reaches her. Huh? Kiki? You're hurt. Scratch, scratch, meow. Did something happen to Will? Why are you asking so many questions? The cat's injured. Of course I'd give you that evil look as well. And then immediately she looks. Oh! Grabs the cat, grabs the sword, and dashes to the remedial hall. Or wherever they are again. As we see Will casted in a bunch of smoke, here's a little quiz on the Battle of Garzanzo. Those foolish dwarves rose up an army of 10,000. Now, tell me, how many mages did it take to put them down? And the professor stomps on Will's head straight to the ground. 1! 10,000 soldiers annihilated by a single Vander. That is how the world works. The wand is always mightier than the sword. Always. Forget your foolish ambitions. We see Will forcefully push his head off the ground. Maybe you're right. But even so, as he grabbed Professor Edward's foot, I still want to make it to the Magica Vander. And Professor kicks him in the head, sending him flying backwards. What could possibly drive you to this length? Is it 'cause some noble cause of yours? And we see Will reach and grab his goggles. I want to be with the girl I love. And he's like, what? I want to keep my promise to Elfie. What nonsense. It's ignoble, indecent, impure. You would strive for the pinnacle of all magic because of some foolish, shallow infatuation? Have you no shame? It might sound ridiculous to an adult, but it is what I want. So I'll do whatever it takes. I'm going to see the sunset with Elfie. Will! And we see Chloette turn and throw the sword directly at him. Chloette? And he turned, grabs it, shing, unsheathes it. Thanks. Yeah. And he turns and aura farms on Professor, throwing the sheath down, putting the goggles directly on, and slamming the sword straight down in the air. You would wield a sword in place of a wand? You miscreant. And away with you! And he blasts forward at Will, at the side, and Will dashes again to the side. And then another one. He cuts it in half and dashes forward. I see. You use a Moria blade to cut through my magic. But... And he blasts to the side with another magical barrage. Here it comes. Another series. I'm scared. I'll get it. I'll get burned again. 1,000 flames. A terrible barrage. I can't stop shaking. This is what it stands between me and the Magica Vander. I just want to run away and hide. But this is the only way forward. And you see him flip his sword from forward to backwards like he's some assassin and dashes straight through the middle of the barrage. You're finished! As you see Chloette yell, Will! And Will yells, there's more to the story. The Battle of Garzanzo. Gareth, the brave dwarven general, saw his kingsmen fall all around him. Yet, even then, he managed to land a blow on his enemy. The mage marveled at the valiant warrior and acknowledged his prowess. As we see the blast hit Will directly, we see the Professor Edward smile. That's right. The sword was as mighty as the wand, and instead of getting blasted, he's backflipped straight into the air, lands on the roof, jumps off the roof, and slams directly into Professor Edward's magical barrier, destroying it with one slash using the momentum. As they turn and try to pin each other with the wand and sword pointing straight at each other's faces. And you see Will painting, and the white-eyed Professor Edward with a cut on his cheek. He bites his teeth with a glare. Will Surfer, I award you 5 credits. He flips his, cape, and he walks off. Will falls to his knees, and then to his back. Chloette runs in, grabs him from the back. Will, are you alright? Splendid. And we cut back to the principal in work near. Like, this dude really did it again. So, Will dove into the barrage on purpose and struck from a blind spot above Professor Edward's head. Yes, and with an attack powerful enough to even shatter a magical shield too. Imagine that. A sword thrust capable of surpassing even magic. One might go as far to say that Will became that sword. And with that final phrase said by the principal, we come to the end of the chapter. And, man, Chapter 1, we got a clean fight against Will and the dungeon creature. Turn around, Chapter 2, we got to see Will go toe-to-toe with the principal. Not toe-to-toe because he wasn't really as strong, but still, that was a nice fight. Well, I ain't gonna hold y'all here too long. If y'all could do me the amazing favor of hop in the comments, give me what y'all think, and any suggestions on any other manga. We so far cover One Piece, Chainsaw Man, and Wistoria. If y'all want to see anything else or want to see me check it out, type it down below. I really try to respond to any comment, and I read all of them. So, yeah. If you could like the video, and hop right in and do me the amazing favor of subscribe if you want to see more. As stated, we do other manga content, and we try to keep something going. I want to build a community one day of like-minded people, and maybe get a podcast going with a bunch of like-minded guests. On that same note, deuces.